Well, it's a sea of red on the local index. The rand has also lost ground against the rampant dollar in afternoon trade. The JSE index fell more than 1.5% in line with global bourses amid concern about slowing growth. Lesedi Mabuza is with Sentio Capital, where she's an equity analyst, with us now to unpack the latest movements. Lesedi, welcome back to Daytime Update. An overview is always a great place to begin when you look at the market so far today.
On our views today, you are seeing that the market is down all around, and this is following from a similar trend that we saw in the US markets overnight, or I'd say last night. And the reason for markets being weaker today is that I think investors are scared of potential recession risks that are looming, and this is mostly as we see that the US Federal Reserve are hiking at aggressive rates and are expected to hike at aggressive rates going forward. So currently, you are seeing that the US dollar is strengthening again, which isn't good for the rest of the world.
There's also been a lot of political drama, more political drama in the UK in the last 24 hours or so. Much of it related, of course, to how the pound was impacted by that budget with tax cuts that were unfunded. How are the international currencies looking now?
So with regards to the pound specifically, I think from what we've seen, the UK is facing a lot of economic headwinds, and also with the stance of the Bank of England, it is also putting a drag on that overall economy and on the pound, the Great British pound currency as well. I mean, from the performance that we've seen in the past weeks on the pound, it does reflect the challenges that they've been experiencing and are still experiencing. I mean, you've had rising borrowing costs, you've had crippling energy bills and high taxes for consumers and corporates. We even saw that last in October, I think consumer confidence came out near historic lows, and that kind of gives you kind of sentiment of what's happening on the ground. And I'd say another problem with the pound that is to come is that it could be from the stance of the BOE. I mean, this week you saw Deputy General Ben Brodent say that it's not clear whether the BOE needs to hike at high interest rates according to what investors expect. But on the other side, you have the US Federal Reserve hiking at aggressive rates, and that means you'll have a stronger dollar. So, which isn't good for the pound. So it's either you manage your currency or you manage your yield.
Mm-hmm. Moody's has now got, in fact, it's completed a downgrade review of Transnet. It's maintained the parastatal's credit rating, but the change now is it's a negative outlook, which means what exactly?
So Moody's, they've confirmed their credit rating for Transnet and given that negative outlook. So on the ratings they've given, it does show that they confirming that there is some improvement in Transnet's liquidity position, but a negative outlook means that they are worried of that being stable going forward. It does depend on how the company operates and performs over the next few months, whether that negative outlook will continue, especially with regards to that liquidity position for Transnet. And sorry, carry on. I was going to actually comment that this morning we saw that Transnet temporarily ended their force majeure on their harbors, and this was after the strike of its workers, which started 2 weeks ago. And I must say this is something that is positive for South Africa and for the economy, because the strike was severely impacting your mining sector specifically, where we weren't able to export stuff like iron ore and coal, especially coal, which is something that's in very high demand globally as well. So it is a step in the right direction for our miners and for our fruit exporters as well. They were complaining that their produce is going to rot at the mine. Right. I mean, at the harbors, which isn't very good for revenue-wise.
Just on that point, a copper developer, Orion Minerals, has now reached a second funding agreement. That's with the Industrial Development Corporation. What are the terms, and how should we be understanding that in the coming weeks and months?
So this is the second, I would say, funding agreement that they have reached with the IDC, and this agreement is to advance its precast copper zinc mine in the Northern Cape. So the amount is to the value of 250 million. And this 250 million rand secured loan facility will be used for the mining developments at that Northern Cape precast mine. and it'll be used for pre-development works as well as water works as well. The first agreement was done in September, and this was to reach an agreement to provide 36 million to support its Oki copper mine as well. And this was done in an exchange agreement whereby they would, the IDC would get a 43% stake in that Oki mine. So overall, the whole funding that they've received from the IDC and another funder or another partner is totaling to 350, and this is basically to help in the development of those two mines going forward.
Lesedi Mabuza, good to speak to you. Thank you.